She stood at the front desk of the hotel she had helped build from nothing, while her husband handed her room key to another woman and said, "She won't be needing this anymore." The lobby went quiet. The concierge looked at his shoes. A couple by the elevator pretended to study their phones. The doorman kept his eyes on the street like the glass had suddenly become very interesting. Marcus didn't lower his voice. He didn't turn away. He wanted the lobby to hear it. He wanted the staff to hear it. He wanted the woman behind the reception desk, the woman who had personally hired half of these people, to understand, in front of all of them, exactly where she now stood. Adriana didn't move. She stood with both hands resting on the marble counter that she had chosen herself. From a supplier in Portugal, in a meeting Marcus had skipped because he said it wasn't worth his time. Her fingers were still. Her breathing was even. The only thing that changed was her eyes. They moved, just once, to the woman beside Marcus, the one now holding the key card like a trophy she'd been waiting to unwrap. Then they moved to something on the counter. A single manila envelope. Thin, unremarkable, the kind that looks like nothing. Adriana smiled. Not a broken smile, not a wounded smile. The quiet, certain smile of a woman who had placed that envelope on that counter herself 20 minutes before Marcus arrived. And what she did next is something this lobby and everyone in it will remember for a very long time. Stay with me, because this story is not what you think it is. 12 years earlier, the Meridian was a concept on a folding table in a windowless conference room at the back of a bank that didn't yet believe in either of them. Marcus Vela was 31. He had a business plan, a navy suit he'd borrowed from his older brother, and a voice that could fill a room before his credentials could. He was the kind of man who made things sound inevitable even before they existed. That was his gift, and eventually, much later, it would be the thing that undid him. Because a man who believes his own performance long enough will stop seeing anything else. Adriana Cruz was 28. She had worked her way up from front-of-house manager at a boutique hotel in Miami to regional operations director before most people her age had finished figuring out what they wanted to do. She had a mind for systems and a memory for people. She remembered the names of front desk staff at properties she had visited once. She remembered what time of day the light hit a lobby and whether it made the space feel welcoming or made guests squint. She remembered which vendors showed up when it mattered and which ones only showed up when the check was ready. She had been invited to the bank meeting as a consultant. A mutual contact thought her operational knowledge might give Marcus's vision something to stand on. She arrived with a 40-page market analysis she had completed in 4 days on nights and weekends. She had not been asked to prepare anything. She had done it because she could not walk into a room without being prepared. Marcus read the first 3 pages in front of her while the bank officer waited, and then he looked up and said, "Where did this come from?" "I made it," she said. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "We should talk after this." They talked for 3 hours in a diner around the corner. He ordered coffee and let it go cold. She ordered tea and drank all of it. He talked about his vision for a hotel that felt different, not corporate, not boutique for the sake of it, but genuinely good. The kind of place where you felt like someone had thought about you before you arrived. She listened. She asked 6 questions. Every question landed in a gap he hadn't considered, and every time she asked one, he wrote something down. He called her the next morning. He said, "I can't do this without someone who thinks the way you do." She said, "I know." They were partners for 2 years before they were anything else. Business first, then something slower and more careful. The kind of love that builds between people who have already seen each other under pressure. The kind that starts with respect and grows into something you stop questioning because it feels like the most obvious thing in the world. They married the year the Meridian opened. Small ceremony, 18 people. The hotel lobby still smelled like fresh paint and possibility. Marcus made a toast about building something that outlasts you, Adriana cried, which surprised her. She was not a woman who cried easily. She had never been a woman who did anything easily. Everything she had was earned in the particular way that things are earned when no one handed you a starting place. The Meridian's first year was hard in the way that first years always are. Staff turnover, a plumbing disaster in the 3rd month, A review from a travel blogger that was almost catastrophic until Adriana personally called the woman and spent 2 hours on the phone listening until the blogger wrote a follow-up piece that turned the narrative around entirely. Marcus handled investors and press. He was exceptional at both. He walked into rooms and people believed in him before he'd finished his opening sentence. He knew how to make the Meridian sound like the future of hospitality. Adriana handled everything else, which was most of it. She built the team, she designed the operational systems, she developed the vendor relationships, she wrote the service philosophy that went into every employee handbook and that several hospitality publications later requested permission to reprint. When the second Meridian property opened in a coastal city 4 hours away, Adriana managed both. When the third came, she managed all three. When a larger hospitality group offered to acquire them, she was the one who sat in the meetings and identified exactly what their valuation methodology was missing and exactly how to use that to protect what they had built. Marcus shook hands and smiled and told the story. Adriana read the fine print and rewrote 4 clauses. By the time the Meridian was the Meridian Group 4 Properties, award-nominated, regularly featured in the kind of press that meant something, it was understood in their professional circle that the company's soul lived in Adriana. Marcus understood this too. At some point, that understanding stopped feeling like partnership and started feeling like something else to him, like debt, like a ceiling, like a story he hadn't chosen to be the second lead in. She didn't see it coming. Not at first. The first sign was something small enough to explain away. Marcus started attending industry events without her. Not always. Occasionally, then regularly, then as a matter of course. He said she was better used on operations. He said she didn't enjoy those rooms anyway. The second part was almost true. She didn't enjoy performing. She preferred building. She let it go. The second sign was a name. Celeste. He mentioned her in passing, a new brand consultant the board had brought in to freshen the Meridian's public positioning. Adriana asked to be included in the first meeting. Marcus said it wasn't necessary. She asked a second time. He said she would find it boring. He said it in the way that contains a message underneath the words, the kind of message you can't point to but can feel landing in your sternum. She went back to what she was doing. She kept building. The third sign was a photograph. Adriana found it on a regional lifestyle magazine's website, a full-page profile on Marcus and the Meridian Group. She was not in the article. Her name appeared once as his wife in the third paragraph. Celeste's name appeared 4 times with a photograph, positioned as the creative force behind the Meridian's reinvention. Adriana read the article twice. She set her phone down. She went back to the spreadsheet she had been working on before she found it. But she had started paying a different kind of attention. She noticed that Marcus's schedule changed, that his calendar, which she had always had access to, began to show meetings with no location listed. That the travel receipts, which went through the company account she still managed, began to include hotel charges in cities where there were no Meridian properties and no vendor relationships. She noticed that Celeste started appearing at property events, not as a vendor, as a presence, close to Marcus. Comfortable in the spaces Adriana had built in a way that suggested she had been told she belonged there. Adriana said nothing. She filed everything. Her sister, Marisol, came to stay for a weekend in November and sat across from Adriana at the kitchen table on a Saturday morning and watched her sister drink coffee with the particular stillness of a woman who is holding something heavy and has decided not to put it down yet. Marisol said, "Tell me." Adriana looked at her for a moment. Then she said, "I think he's building something without me." Marisol said, "In the marriage or in the company?" Adriana said, "I think they might be the same project." She was right. It took her 6 more weeks to understand the full shape of it. On a Wednesday evening in early January, Adriana was working late in the Meridian's original property, the one they had opened together, the one with the Portuguese marble lobby counter. Marcus had taken a flight to the coastal city. He said it was for a vendor review. She went into the company's shared document system to pull a vendor contract. She was in the wrong folder. She noticed a file she hadn't seen before, titled simply, Restructuring Phase 2. She opened it. It was 43 pages. She read all of them. The document was a detailed plan prepared by Celeste's consulting firm in partnership with two board members Adriana recognized to restructure the Meridian Group's ownership. The plan included a buyout clause for what it called non-essential equity positions, a category that, after 4 pages of financial language that Adriana read, with the kind of precision that comes from 12 years of reading financial documents on behalf of a company she built, resolved to one position, hers. The valuation assigned to her equity was 30% of what any fair market analysis would have produced. The methodology was designed to reach that number. There were notes in the margin Celeste's handwriting. She recognized it from a proposal she had once reviewed about timing. About waiting until after the Q4 gala, when Adriana would be most occupied with operations. There was a secondary file attached, a draft of a revised company operating agreement that would require a simple board majority, not a unanimous vote, to approve ownership transfers. Adriana counted. The board currently had 7 members. She was one of them. 3 others had signed a letter of support attached to the restructuring document. That was 4. With a simple majority threshold, that was enough. She had been a board member for 11 years. She had never missed a meeting. She had never voted against a resolution she hadn't first read in full. She photographed every page on her phone. 61 photographs, systematic, well-lit. She closed the folder. She returned to the vendor contract she had originally opened. She completed what she had come to do. Then she drove home, made herself a bowl of rice and black beans because it was her grandmother's recipe, and it was what she ate when she needed to think clearly, and sat at the kitchen table alone until nearly 1 a.m. She was not angry. She was architectural. There was a difference, and she had always known the difference. She understood the shape of what had been planned. She understood the timeline. She understood that Q4 meant the annual shareholder gala, the Meridian's largest public event, 200 guests, the company's investors, board members, industry press, longtime partners, the staff who had been with the Meridian since the beginning. She understood that the plan was designed to happen after the gala. After she had done the work of running it, she picked up her phone. She made a call. Her attorney answered on the second ring. She had known Adriana for 8 years. She said, "What time is it?" Adriana told her. She said, "How bad?" Adriana told her that too. There was a brief silence then. "Send me the photographs tonight. Don't touch anything in the system. Don't change your behavior. Come in Thursday." Adriana said, "I need to tell you something else." Her attorney waited. "I'm going to run the gala," Adriana said. "I'm going to run it better than anything we've ever done. And I need it to be the last event I run for this company." Her attorney was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You have something planned." "I have the gala list," Adriana said, "and I have invitations to send." She sent 3 invitations that were not on Marcus's approved list. The first was to Lena Osei, a hospitality investment analyst whose firm held a minority position in the Meridian Group and who had a well-known professional philosophy about operational leadership, specifically, that the most undervalued asset in any hospitality company was almost always the person who built its systems and kept them running. The second was to Jerome Whitfield, a journalist who covered business and ethics in the hospitality industry and who had, 2 years earlier, written a piece on equity dilution schemes in founder-led companies that Adriana had read 3 times and filed away in a folder she hadn't known she'd need. The third was to Patricia Harmon. Patricia had been the Meridian's first front desk employee. She had been there when the marble counter was still wrapped in protective film. She had watched Adriana crawl under that same counter at 10 o'clock at night during the opening week to trace a wiring problem that no one else had diagnosed. Patricia had been with the company for 12 years and had never been featured in a single profile, press piece, or investor presentation. Adriana asked her to wear something she felt good in and to arrive as a guest, not as staff. Patricia said, "Is everything okay?" Adriana said, "It will be." She prepared for 6 weeks. Her attorney filed for a full valuation review of Adriana's equity stake through an independent firm, legally triggered by a clause in the original operating agreement that Marcus had apparently never read closely enough to understand the implications of. The clause required any proposed equity transfer to be preceded by an independent appraisal. The appraisal process would take 60 days. During those 60 days, no ownership restructuring could proceed. Her attorney also filed a motion for discovery on the board communications related to restructuring phase 2. Marcus did not know any of this. He was busy preparing his remarks for the gala. He was busy with Celeste, who had begun appearing at the original Meridian property with the ease of someone who had been told it was already hers. She suggested paint colors for a lobby refresh during a Tuesday walkthrough. She spoke to the catering coordinator about menu changes without clearing them with Adriana. She rearranged a display near the front entrance and left it rearranged. Adriana put the display back. She said nothing about it. The week of the gala, Marcus told Adriana that he had decided to add Celeste to the evening's program. A brief remarks segment. Brand vision. He said it over breakfast, the way people say things when they have already decided there is nothing to discuss. Adriana said, "I'll make sure the AV team has her slides." Marcus looked at her. Something moved across his face for a half second. Something that had no name but that he pushed away before it could become a question. She smiled at him and refilled her coffee. 3 days before the gala, a key card arrived on Adriana's desk in an envelope with no note. It was Marcus's personal key card for the property, the one coded for all floor access, including the management suite. She had one too. They had always had matching access. She turned it over in her hands. Then she put it in her coat pocket. She had a feeling she would need it as a prop. The evening of the gala, the Meridian's original lobby looked the way it looked when Adriana had imagined it before it existed, warm and full of intention. Every detail chosen rather than settled for. 200 guests moved through the space with the comfortable ease of people who felt cared for without knowing exactly why. That feeling was the result of 200 decisions Adriana had made over 6 weeks of planning. The temperature of the room, the height of the floral arrangements, the music which played at exactly the volume where it enhanced conversation instead of competing with it. The lighting, which hit the marble counter at an angle she had tested 3 separate times. The staff moved through the room with the particular grace that only exists when people have been well prepared and genuinely respected by the person who trained them. Marcus arrived with Celeste. This was not a surprise to Adriana. She had anticipated it. She had placed them at a table visible from the front entrance, visible specifically to Lena Osei, who was seated 2 tables away with the quiet attentiveness of a financial analyst who has been told something interesting is about to happen. Jerome Whitfield was near the bar with sparkling water and a practitioner's patience. Patricia Harmon was at table 7 in a dress, the color of a deep evening sky, sitting with a group of long-tenured staff who had also been invited as guests tonight. She looked exactly like what she was, a woman who had built something alongside someone and deserved to be in the room she had helped make possible. Adriana was at the front desk when Marcus arrived. It was where she always was when she hosted an event she believed in being the first person guests encountered, not as performance but as principle. She had been at a front desk the first night the Meridian opened. She would be at one now. Marcus walked past her with Celeste. He checked her in at the desk as a guest, something he had never done before. He handed her the key card he had requested to be coded for the management suite, the one that matched Adriana's, the one that meant, "You have access to everything here," he said loudly enough. "She won't be needing this anymore." The lobby paused. Adriana's hands rested on the Portuguese marble. Her eyes moved to the manila envelope on the counter. She smiled. She waited. Marcus gave his remarks at 8 o'clock. He talked about the Meridian Group's vision, its growth, its future. He thanked the board members. He thanked the investors. He thanked Celeste by name, the creative intelligence behind where we're going. He thanked the staff collectively, without names. He did not say Adriana's name. She was standing 12 feet away. When he finished, the room offered applause that was polite in the specific way that applause is polite when something feels slightly wrong but no one can yet say what. Celeste took the microphone for her brand vision segment. She spoke well. She was composed, professional, and entirely unaware of who was in the room and what they already knew. When Celeste finished, before Marcus could reclaim the microphone, Adriana walked forward. She did not rush. She moved through her own lobby the way she had always moved through it, with the unhurried authority of someone who knows every corner of a space because she designed the experience of being inside it. She picked up the microphone. "Thank you for being here tonight," she said. Her voice was even and warm and reached every corner of the room without effort. "This is the 12th year the Meridian has hosted this gala. I've run every one of them." She let that land. "I want to share something with this room tonight because you are the people who have invested in this company financially, professionally, and in some cases with years of your careers. You deserve to understand what has been built here and by whom, and what has recently been proposed to happen to it." Marcus's hand found the back of his chair. Adriana reached for the manila envelope. She opened it without ceremony. She removed a document and held it up so the room could see its shape, not its text, just its presence. A formal document, official, real. 6 weeks ago, I discovered a restructuring plan, prepared without my knowledge, designed to dilute my equity stake in this company to approximately 30% of its actual value, a company I co-founded, co-financed, and have operated for 12 years. The room was the kind of quiet that has mass. Lena Osei set down her glass. The plan required a board majority to proceed. The votes had already been arranged. She named the 3 board members who had signed the letter of support. She named each one clearly, without inflection. People who knew those names heard them land. Adriana continued. She described the operating clause her attorney had triggered the appraisal requirement that froze all restructuring activity for 60 days. She described the independent valuation, which had returned a number for her equity stake that was, she told the room, 4 times what the restructuring plan had assigned it. She turned to Lena Osei. "Your firm's position in this company was based on representations about leadership and operational structure. I want you to have the documentation directly." She nodded once toward the corner of the room. A young woman in a charcoal blazer, her attorney's associate, moved forward with a second envelope and placed it on the table in front of Lena. Lena Osei picked it up. Adriana turned back to the room. "I want to say something about this building," she said. "This counter is Portuguese marble. I chose it. The vendor meeting took 4 hours on a Tuesday in February, 11 years ago, and I attended it alone." Her hand rested on the marble. "Every system in this property, the service model, the training protocol, the vendor relationships, the reservation management system we built from scratch when the 3rd property opened. Every one of those things exists because someone built them. That someone is standing here." She looked at Patricia Harmon. Patricia has been with this company since the first day this lobby had guests in it. She has been here for 12 years. Tonight is the first time she has ever been invited to a company event as a guest rather than as staff. I want everyone in this room to know her name. Patricia pressed both hands against her mouth. The woman beside her put an arm around her shoulders. "I am not angry tonight," Adriana said. "I am clear, and I think clarity is more useful." She placed the microphone back on the stand. She picked up the key card that Marcus had handed to Celeste. She had retrieved it from the front desk attendant calmly before her remarks, with a quiet word of explanation. She held it up. "This opens every door in this property," she said. "It always has." She set it back on the counter. Her counter. The marble she had chosen from Portugal on a Tuesday morning alone. She did not look at Marcus. She turned and walked toward the lobby's glass entrance. The room did not make a sound. Behind her, she heard Marcus's chair scrape back. She heard him begin to say her name. She heard Jerome Whitfield introduce himself to Lena Osei's assistant. She heard Patricia Harmon cry, softly, the way people cry when they have been seen for the first time by the person whose seeing mattered most. She did not look back. The night air was cool and clean. She stood on the steps for one moment and breathed it in. Then she took out her phone, opened a text from her attorney that had arrived 3 minutes ago, and read 2 words: boards dissolving. She put the phone back in her pocket. She walked to her car, she drove home, she made tea. In the weeks that followed, the Meridian Group entered a period that its remaining board members would describe, in various private conversations, as significant transition. Lena Osei's firm requested a full governance review as a condition of their continued investment. This was not a request anyone on the board was in a position to refuse. The review team arrived on a Monday morning with a list of 47 questions and the particular efficiency of people who have done this before and know where the answers tend to hide. The restructuring plan was formally abandoned. The 3 board members who had signed the letter of support quietly stepped back from their positions over the following 3 weeks. The stepping back was described in each case as personal. It was not personal. The independent valuation of Adriana's equity was entered into the record. Marcus's attorney called hers on a Thursday afternoon and used the word settlement for the first time. Her attorney listened and said she would follow up by end of week. She followed up with a number that reflected 12 years of Adriana's contributions to a company that would not exist without them. Celeste's consulting engagement was not renewed. Celeste sent one message to Marcus after the gala that he did not respond to. She sent a second one that he also did not respond to. She did not send a third. Marcus called Adriana twice. She did not answer either call. She had said everything she needed to say in a room of 200 people who could verify it. Jerome Whitfield's piece ran 3 weeks later. It was careful and specific and based on documentation. It named names. It described the valuation methodology used in the restructuring plan and what that methodology would have produced versus what an independent analysis produced. People in the hospitality industry read it twice. Some of them forwarded it without comment. Some forwarded it with a great deal of comment. Patricia Harmon was mentioned in the piece. Her name appeared in the 3rd paragraph. She was described as a 12-year employee who had never appeared in a company press profile before the night of the gala. She printed the article and put it on her refrigerator with a magnet shaped like a small anchor. 6 months after the gala, Adriana signed the papers on a single-floor office space in a building 3 blocks from the original Meridian property. The space had good natural light and a reception area with concrete floors she planned to finish in a warm stain. She had already chosen the stain. She had a meeting with a supplier on Thursday. She hired 4 people in the first month, all of them from the Meridian's operations team. They came because she asked. They came because they had watched her for years and understood what it meant to work alongside someone who cared as much about how a thing was done as what it produced. Patricia Harmon came too. She arrived on her first day with a tray of coffee she had made at home and set it on the reception desk without ceremony. Adriana looked at the tray and then at Patricia and said, "You didn't have to do that." Patricia said, "I know." The new company had no formal name yet. Adriana had been sitting with several options. She wasn't rushing. The right name would arrive when the work had made clear what it actually was. On a Saturday morning in early spring, she sat at the concrete-floored reception desk with a cup of the coffee Patricia had brought, and a legal pad, and the kind of quiet that belongs to an empty office on a weekend when the city outside is moving at half speed and the light comes through the windows at the angle that makes everything look like it might be worth building. She was not thinking about Marcus. She had finished thinking about Marcus some time ago. The way you finish with a room you have left, not dramatically, not with ceremony, just completely. She was thinking about a hotel in a city 2 hours away, a property she had been watching for 3 years. A building with good bones and a reputation that had been declining since the family that built it had stopped knowing what to do with it. She had been watching it the way she watched everything, patiently, with the kind of attention that registers every detail and files them until the moment they become useful. She thought the bones were still good. She thought the problem was systems and leadership. She thought she knew how to fix both. She wrote the address at the top of the legal pad. She wrote 5 questions beneath it. Then she picked up her coffee and looked out the window at the street below where the city was going about its Saturday, unhurried and full of things that had not yet been built. She was not starting over. She was starting from what she knew. And what she knew was considerable. Some women wait for the room to recognize them. Adriana stopped waiting and built a room of her own. If this story reminded you of someone who worked in the background while someone else took the credit, share it with them. And if you want more stories about the women who built the thing and then reclaimed it, you know where to find us.